15 jaw-dropping Scotland geography facts that will change how you see this country forever. 15. Scotland has exactly one natural lake. The Lake of Menteith stands alone while every other body of fresh water is called a loch. That is not a random quirk. It is linguistic heritage from Gaelic, which preserved the term loch for both lakes and sea inlets. The lake likely arose from a Scots word, laich, meaning low-lying ground, that slid into English usage. On cold winters, the Lake of Menteith freezes hard enough to host the legendary Grand Match of Curling, a mass bonspiel that once drew thousands onto the ice under a white sky. Place names around it carry echoes of language layers, Gaelic, Norse, Scots, stacked like sediments. This matters because it shows how words, weather, and water entwine, and how language and landscape are woven together in Scotland. 14. Scotland holds the United Kingdom record for extreme cold. Temperatures have hit minus 27.2 degrees Celsius twice, at Braemar in the Grampian Mountains in 1982 and at Altnahara in the Highlands in 1995. On such nights, hoarfrost feathers every fence post, breath hangs like smoke, and the sound of a boot on snow is a brittle squeak. These deep freezes happen because Scotland sits at a northern latitude with high ground that traps Arctic air. Wide straths and frost hollows let cold pool under clear skies, while surrounding mountains cut off milder winds. Climate meets topography in a serious way, creating pockets of Siberia a short drive from the sea. Even aurora flickers more often here than farther south, a winter light show above a land that can feel locked in ice. 13. Two living legends share Scotland's landscape. The Mayclore Hedge in Perthshire is the tallest hedge on Earth, planted in 1745 and now around 100 feet high and a third of a mile long. Local lore says it was planted by a couple before the Jacobite Rising. The husband never returned from the wars, and the hedge was allowed to reach for the sky. Every decade or so, teams of arborists climb like mountaineers to trim its ramparts while wrens and thrushes chatter from within. Nearby, the Fingal yew may be Europe's oldest tree, between 2,000 and 5,000 years old. The ancient trunk grew so vast it split into a ring, a living circle enclosed by a low wall, and in recent years, a branch surprised scientists by bearing berries on a tree long believed to be male. Folklore claims Pontius Pilate was born here, almost certainly untrue, but irresistible. These giants connect modern Scotland to deep time, breathing the same air as Bronze Age farmers and Victorian tourists. 12. Scotland is an island powerhouse. There are around 900 offshore islands, and 101 are permanently inhabited. The largest, Lewis and Harris, covers 2,179 square kilometers, a single island with two names and personalities. Wave-lashed Atlantic Macaire on one side, rugged Harris Hills on the other. 13 islands contain mountains over 3,000 feet, with 12 of those Munros on the dramatic Isle of Skye where the Black Quillen rise like a saw blade. Island life and mountain culture collide here in fairy timetables that are as important as train schedules, causeways that stitch sandbars, and Gaelic that still threads through everyday speech. Think whiskey bowls of peat smoke on Islay, puffins on Staffa, abandoned villages on St. Kilda, where the ocean rules every decision, and crofting townships where wind, salt, and soil have taught hard lessons for centuries. 11. The far north once belonged to Norway. The Shetland and Orkney Islands were Norwegian until 1472, pledged and then annexed in a royal dowry story that sounds like myth but is legal history. To this day, Shetland sits closer to Oslo than to London. Place names carry Norse fingerprints, Vos for sea inlets, Wicks for bays, Ness for headlands, and the Old Norn language survived into the 19th century. In Lerwick, the Uphelly Fire Festival each January sets longships ablaze in a blaze of Viking memory against a polar wind. Geography explains politics. Look at a map and you see a northern world of harbors, fishing grounds, and oil terminals turned to face the Scandinavian Sea. A reminder that lines on the water can tug at identity on land. 10. Meet the Munros. These are the 282 Scottish mountains that rise above 3,000 feet, first catalogued by Sir Hugh Munro in 1891. Bagging every Munro is a national obsession, with the first completer in 1901 and over 7,600 people finishing by December 2023. Along the way, hikers sleep in bothies that glow like lanterns on winter nights, learn the art of reading a cloud's intention, and discover why Scotland's weather is famous for 4 seasons in a day. There are sister lists, Corbetts, Grahams, and Tops for those who cannot stop. The Munros shape outdoor culture and tourism, but they also shape stories. Shared notebooks damp with drizzle, blisters earned on sky's knife edges, and friendships forged on long, peaty plateaus where the horizon keeps stepping away. 9. Ben Nevis is the roof of Britain and a storybook of stone. At 1,345 meters, it is the highest point for 739 kilometers in any direction, and it is the remains of a collapsed volcano from about 350 million years ago. The summit runs 10 degrees Celsius cooler than the base and hosted a staffed weather observatory from 1883 to 1904. Supplies once went up by a zigzagging pony track, and observers launched kites into gales to measure wind. Its north face rises in 700-meter cliffs that challenge world-class climbers, a cathedral of buttresses and gullies with names like Tower Ridge and Observatory Gully. In spring, the gullies hold ribbons of snow, while primroses flower in Glen Nevis below. Ben Nevis matters because it distills Scottish mountain weather, geology, and adventure into one peak, where a sunny start can end in whiteout, and a casual walk can turn into a lesson in respect. The strangest fact is still coming. 8. Loch Morar is the deepest in Britain. It drops to 310 meters, enough to swallow the Eiffel Tower, and still hide the tip under 10 meters of water. The loch's long, narrow trench was carved by Ice Age glaciers, leaving steep wooded slopes and a sense of secrecy. Its waters are cold, clear, and nutrient-poor, making a stark, silvery world beneath the surface where Arctic char glide and the light fades quickly. The road peters out into footpaths, and a tiny rail halt serves a settlement that feels like the end of the line. Local folklore tells of Morag, a shy cousin to Nessie, haunting the darker reaches. This depth creates unique cold water habitats and shows how glacial ice, moving like slow stone, sculpted the highlands into fjord-like lakes. 7. Loch Ness is a true giant. It holds 7,452 million cubic meters of water, which is more than every lake in England and Wales combined. The loch stretches long and narrow along a fault line, with steep sides that drop to depths over 230 meters, its surface often ruffled into whitecaps by funneled winds. Its dark, peat-stained water absorbs light and swallows shapes, feeding a myth machine that has circled the world. Monster myths aside, the volume of Loch Ness is a thermal battery. It rarely freezes, it breathes out mist on cold mornings, and it moderates temperatures for farms and villages along its banks. The Caledonian Canal stitches it into a sea-to-sea waterway, and Seach's slow sloshes of water can lift and lower the level as if the loch had a heartbeat. Ecology, climate, and the region's entire water system lean on this vast, moving reservoir. 6. Scotland hoards water. It contains about 90% of all standing fresh water in Great Britain, spread across an estimated 31,460 freshwater lochs, with more than 7,500 just in the Western Isles. From Mirror Flat Hill lochans on a still dawn to sprawling bodies like Loch Awe and Loch Lomond, water is everywhere. In the 20th century, power from the Glen's hydro schemes turned that geography into electricity, tunneling through mountains and damming valleys. Today, pumped storage plants like Cruachan, the Hollow Mountain, store energy by lifting water uphill, while distilleries whisper that the character of a whiskey begins with the burn that feeds it. Blanket bogs such as the Flow Country act like vast sponges, storing carbon and smoothing floods. Water is wealth, and Scotland's reservoirs of it power ecosystems, communities, and industry, and even define a rhythm of life. The rains come in from the Atlantic, and the land quietly fills its cups. 5. Some Scottish hills are built from rocks older than most life on Earth. The Louisian gneiss clocks in at nearly 3 billion years old, banded and beautiful, baked and squeezed deep in vanished mountain chains before the first fish swam. Dark scurry dikes cut through it like frozen lightning, reminders of ancient magma pulses, and later metamorphism blurred their edges in a deep time watercolor. Walk the beaches of Harris and you'll step from white-shell sand onto nice ledges that have watched continents collide and drift like ice flows. Farther south rise the Torridonian sandstones, still ancient but younger, stacked in red-brown layers that built the sculptural peaks of Ascent. Walk a Scottish ridge, and you are literally stepping across planetary history, from the basement rocks of the Hebridean terrain to the young glacial scratches that skate across them. 4. Fingal's Cave is nature's cathedral. On the island of Staffa, a sea cave rises 72 feet tall and runs 270 feet deep, formed entirely of hexagonal basalt columns created 60 million years ago as lava cooled at just the right speed. The columns line up like organ pipes, and the floor is a mosaic of the same honeycomb underfoot. In Gaelic, it is called the Melodious Cave. And when boatmen cut their engines at the mouth, the Atlantic rolls in and plays it. Notes bloom and fade as waves breathe, an eerie, ordered thunder. Its perfect geometry links it to the Giant's Causeway in Ireland, twin chapters of the same volcanic book. Victorian travelers, Mendelssohn, whose Hebrides overture bottled the sound, Keats and Wordsworth, even Queen Victoria made pilgrimages here. It is geology you can hear, and a setting where puffins wheel overhead as if this cathedral had its own choir. 3. A fault line you can spot from space slices across the highlands. The Great Glen Fault formed around 430 million years ago and runs from Fort William to Inverness. The land on either side has shifted about 104 kilometers relative to the other, a sideways shunt that carved a straight-shot valley now stitched with lochs, linhay, lochie, Loch Ness, like panes of dark glass. Thomas Telford threaded the Caledonian Canal through this corridor in the 19th century, linking Atlantic to North Sea with locks like Neptune's staircase. Today, an A-road, a railway, a long-distance trail, and a chain of towns all follow this tectonic invitation. The fault still murmurs with minor earthquakes, subtle reminders that Scotland's crust has a memory. It is a masterclass in how tectonics sculpt the map and then become the map for everything else. 2. Scotland's coastline seems infinite. If you could straighten every inlet and curve, you would get an astonishing 18,743 kilometers. That is roughly the distance from Scotland to Australia. It is also a lesson in the coastline paradox. The more closely you measure, the longer it gets, because Scotland's shore is a lacework of fjord-like sea lochs, skerries, bays, stacks, and cliffs. Glaciers over 10,000 years ago hacked the shore into a labyrinth, especially to the west and north, where around 800 islands are scattered like stepping stones. Here are the great tide races, Corryvrecken's whirlpool roaring between Jura and Scarba, the merry men of May dancing off Caithness, the Pentland Firth boiling on a spring tide. Here are Stevenson lighthouses staking their white claims against black storms, surfers taking winter rollers at Thurso East, sea kayakers slipping through seals, Machair meadows blooming with orchids, and fishermen tracing routes their great-grandparents knew by heart. This coastline fuels marine life, fisheries, ferries, and a culture tied to the sea, a living edge in perpetual motion. 1. The seas of Scotland dwarf the land. The waters in Scotland's exclusive economic zone are about 6 times larger than its land area and make up roughly 63% of the entire United Kingdom's marine territory. That blue expanse includes the shallow banks of the North Sea, the storm-torn Pentland Firth, the deep Rockall Trough, and hidden features like the Darwin Mounds, cold water coral gardens in the dark. It holds oil and gas rigs, new arrays of offshore wind including floating turbines that pioneered a global industry, and tidal streams with power to light cities. Beneath the waves sway kelp forests and seagrass meadows that shelter fish and store carbon. Above them, wheel gannets and skuas while porpoises stitch silver arcs across calm mornings. Scapa Flow in Orkney is one of the world's great natural harbors, its waters full of wartime stories and diving legends. That means Scotland is not only a land of mountains and lochs, it is a maritime nation whose underwater geography is the main stage. Commerce, energy, and wildlife all hinge on this blue superpower, and decisions made out there ripple into every glen. Scotland is a compact epic. From faults you can see from space to water reserves that outweigh nations, from volcanic cathedrals to billion-year-old bedrock, this small country concentrates Earth's most dramatic stories into one rugged map. It is a place where a hedge becomes a landmark, a loch becomes a climate engine, and a mountain is not just a climb, but a chapter of deep time. If you love geography and the strangest corners of our planet, stick around, because the next trip might flip your worldview again.